this is a pharmacy, and this pharmacy, they sold syringes, but as they were on literally 50 yards away from the main dealing area, you can imagine the pressure on this pharmacy. I remember that they sold around 2,000 syringes a day in the early 1980s. I remember that they bundled the syringes, so you had to buy them in packs of 5, but that's still 400 customers a day. And you can imagine people who just bought their heroin aren't the most patient customers. So it didn't work out over here. But those people, they really struggled because they realized that a clean syringe is of vital importance for someone who uses clean equipment. But in order to survive with their pharmacy, they really had to close. That was 1983. And that happened to be the time, 1983, HIV was around, but we weren't aware of it. But at that time we were aware of hepatitis B. Actually, the closure of this pharmacy started something off in the drug scene. I remember from one moment to another, there were in the center of Amsterdam, next to that main drug dealing area, that you couldn't get any syringes anymore. And I remember something that is still happening in lots of places all over the world, that drug users who use their syringes, they hide their syringe so that a colleague might find it. And I remember that in places behind that small building, you could find syringes. I even remember that some people stuck the syringe in a tree so that someone else might use it. There was an enormous shortage of syringes. Syringes were sold for 5 guilders, 10 guilders in the night, used ones, not used ones. It was a real mess. And that acute shortage actually triggered the start of the first Netherlands syringe exchange program. At that time, there was an activist group of users and activists and committed drug workers. They worked together in the Junkie Bond, and they had a facility not that far away from here. And they were confronted with questions about the syringes. Where can we buy syringes? Every day. So that they thought that it had to be solved. And perhaps together with another problem that this entire neighborhood faced, because thousands of people were there, syringes people were injecting, and people were injecting down there in all the alleys. The syringes were everywhere. In playing grounds, in garbage. It was dreadful. And I remember that every morning when we opened the door of that Junkie Bond, there were dirty syringes that were thrown through the brievenbus. Were thrown in the letterbox. and there was blood everywhere, and so then I remember there was a drug user who said, why don't we combine this idea of handing out syringes with collecting all the rubbish, because it's dreadful for everyone, not only for people with children but also for drug users as well. Let's try to arrange it like this, that that people get a clean syringe if they return a used one. That sounded like a brilliant plan, which solved various issues in this neighborhood, the shortage and the rubbish on the street. So we went to the municipal health service at that time, but they said, great idea, but we are not able to support you with that. Until 3 months later, then we got a call, and I remember that the head of the municipal health service said, you remember that offer you once did a couple of months ago? Would you like to reconsider doing that again? Because have you read the newspapers? There's a new disease in the US, gay-related immunity disease, and it seems to affect injecting drug users as well. We would like to support you if you would start with a prevention facility, with a prevention service. So that's in fact how the first syringe program started. And in fact it all started because this pharmacy stopped selling syringes.